Welcome to Central Georgia Focus. I am your host, Katelyn Heck, this week, and this is the season for three major religious holidays: Easter, Passover, and Ramadan. So today we are talking about Ramadan, and here with us we have Anam Abbasi talking about the Ramadan observance. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So before we get started and talking about Ramadan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm basically, we're from Pakistan. So I have two kids, two sons, an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my husband's a physician. He works in Warner Robins. So I'm a homemaker, taking care of my kids, and that's about it about me.
So let's talk about Ramadan. What is it and why is it observed?
So basically Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. As most of you might not know that we follow the lunar calendar, which means that the month depends on the moon sighting. So it's either 29 or 30 days. So it's the 9th month of the lunar calendar. So if you're following the solar calendar, every year it's going to come 10 or 11 days before the previous month. So Ramadan is a very holy month. Every month is holy, but Ramadan holds special importance because we fast in the month of Ramadan, which is one of the most important pillar of Islam. And the miracle of Quran, the holy book, which is a source of guidance for us, was revealed in this month. And we fast to show gratitude to our Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for giving us this miracle, for giving us the blessing of Quran.
And how long does Ramadan typically last?
So every month in an Islamic calendar lasts about 29 to 30 days, depending on this moon sighting.
Okay. And talk a little bit about how fasting, you mentioned, is a big part of Ramadan.
Yes. So fasting is that you cannot eat or drink anything starting from dawn to sunset.
And what is the importance or significance of that during this month?
So the importance and significance is this, that you are leaving food and water in terms to show gratitude to our Lord, to listen to His commands. And then these are food and water are the two most important things for our body. And once we know that you can leave this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can leave anything else for the sake of your Lord. So in fasting, as it is being said that our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that Allah is in no need of somebody leaving food and water if they cannot leave evil virtues, lying, backbiting, anything. So people, as if we can have the iceberg thing,
Yeah. Yes, fasting is kind of the tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg. So basically, people only think that fasting is just that leaving food and water, but there's a lot more behind the tip of the iceberg underneath. That it is not just the tip of it's just not leaving food and water. It's about being self-conscious about yourself in terms of your spirituality, in terms of your devotion to your Lord, and in terms of your own acts. Every act you're doing, in terms of your tongue, guarding your mind, guarding your ears, guarding your hands, every single thing. In the month of Ramadan, for instance, my little kids, my 5-year-old will say, oh, those were my kids. So this is the tip of the iceberg, yeah. So, even my 5-year-old will say, no, I cannot fight with my brother because it's the month of Ramadan. I will not, we have to help our mother because it's the month of Ramadan. We cannot talk like this, it's the month of Ramadan. So Allah tells us that, we need to guard ourselves in terms of food and water and in terms of other things as well. And we know that as individuals, if we can do it in the month of Ramadan, which in turn turns us into better people, better Muslims, we can definitely do it out of the month of Ramadan. If you're not talking bad about somebody, if you're not backbiting, if you're not gossiping, if you're not, using foul language or anything like that, you can definitely do it outside the month of Ramadan as well. So it makes you more conscious of God and makes you more conscious of your own self and tells you that this is my real potential as a Muslim, as a human, and this is our real potential as a community to grow and to become better people eventually.
And when you're talking about Ramadan, we just showed your beautiful family there. How are you explaining that to children and to younger populations? So,
Ramadan, right before Ramadan starts, a week before, even in our mosque, we had a whole Ramadan conference in which we had parallel sessions going on for adults, for kids, for younger kids, for teenagers, for younger kids, and for little kids. So we start preparing them, week, 10 days before the, Ramadan is coming. We have the countdown calendars at home, they start counting down days, and then we tell them you have to do this, and then these are your goals. We have these little goal, they're different, very cute goal books and stuff like that. They come and so they tick every act of kindness every day that they do, every act of charity that they do. If they do a special worship, they'll tick that up, and then we reward them with gifts every week and everything that okay, you did that so good, so you did you did something good, so we're going to reward you for that, because you're making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy. So they're excited about it, because it's the month is different, the routine is different. I'm telling you, my 8-year-old, he's fasting every other day, and it's not obligatory on him to fast, but he's still doing it because everybody's doing, so he wants to do it. And then they're awake at night, because we have a special prayer at night that's called the Taraweeh prayer, and that ends around 11:30 at night. So he goes every day, he says, I want to go, and do it because my friends are doing it. So it's the whole environment is very different, very spiritual. It's a complete different connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the month of Ramadan. And one actually realizes as a person that, if I can do this, I can definitely, this is my real potential, and this is the real purpose of life, which we're actually involved in so many worldly things that, then you forget what is the real purpose of life as individuals, in terms of your spiritual needs, in terms of your connection with your Lord, and in terms of being a human, being a person, being a good person. That I'm supposed to guard myself as an individual, guard my deeds as an individual, and become a better person, so that I am able to serve the world in a better way, rather than what I'm doing right now.
That's great that your son, even at a young age, is really inspired to
even the little one, he's so excited about it that, I want to go to the mosque and everything. So, we have a lot of things going on in the mosque. Every weekend, we have a special prayer arranged for the kids, in which all of the kids will lead the prayer. So giving them a sense of leadership, that you are the ones who can lead prayers, and eventually you will be leaders of the community. So each one of them leads the prayer. So my 5-year-old would stand up and say, I want to do it too, and we give him a chance to do it too. And he doesn't know it that well, but everybody would stand behind him, just giving him encouragement that, okay, fine, you can do it. So they're excited about it. We have our Eid gift exchange in the month of Ramadan. So we have two zikr nights, we call them. The kids spend the whole night till dawn in the mosque, and we have sessions for them, learning sessions, as well as games for them. So if they have a half-hour learning session, for instance, then they'll have a half-hour soccer match. We pick teams, and then eventually they play, and then two teams play the final. So we have soccer matches for little kids, older kids, badminton matches for girls and stuff. So 2 nights, Saturday, next Saturday, and this last Saturday, they will be spending the night in the mosque. So they're looking forward, they're learning something in terms of religion, in terms of things, because they're spending some time in those sessions learning, and they're having fun. And then they obviously eat together and everything. So kids love Ramadan. They enjoy the month of Ramadan.
That's great. And you mentioned a couple terms involved with Ramadan. If you can explain some of the more popular terms that you'll hear.
So suhoor is what we call it when we start our fast, and it starts when it's dawn. So today, like it was around 6 or 8 a.m. And iftar is the breaking of our fast, and it's at sunset, and it's today at 7:51, I guess. And then we have Taraweeh, which is a special prayer that is at the last part of the night. So it starts around 9:45 and it goes up to 11:30. And then we have, Qiyamul Layl, which is, that you spend the night praying, worshipping, and we have it for kids as well. And then we have Zikr nights, that is that you are worshipping your Lord, and then, there are also, we have activities for kids as well. And then we have Eid, which is the special celebration after Ramadan. And that is what is, it is as a gift from our Lord that, you fasted the whole month and you did so much worship, so now you can celebrate what you did. And, that's a couple of days of festivity, and, you must have seen a lot of pictures, me being dressed up with my family. So there were Eid pictures of my family. This is another Eid picture, an Eid party that we did. So, that is something that we did. This is an Eid breakfast that our mosque does. So there were around 700 people last month at Emerson Park. So the mosque arranged the breakfast for the whole community, and they came together, and we had an Eid breakfast together.
Oh, that is fantastic. I'm learning so much from you. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Today we are talking about the Ramadan observance. We are in the month of Ramadan right now. So we're talking a little bit about some of the traditional things that are done during Ramadan, especially with the children. You've mentioned some great things to get the kids involved. Talk about how important community is during the month of Ramadan.
So to be very honest, community is really important in the month of Ramadan, and living here and our mosque and everything, we have lots of things done. There's huge amount of charity done in the month of Ramadan, and I'm sometimes amazed at how people will go up forward and donate immense amount of charity for people who are in need. So as far as community aspects are concerned, we have a lot of things going on in our mosque. So every day in our mosque, as I told you about, iftar is breaking the fast. We have iftar every day in the mosque for travelers. So many people traveling and fasting, they stop over in the mosque just to pray, and then they can break their fast together. Then so the mosque has, and it's all volunteer work, it's all sponsored by community individuals. People, they have their silent sponsors. People might not even know about them, but they have sponsored those iftars, and they're Mercer students who are away from their parents and everybody. They're in the domes, and they're fasting at university, so they have to break their fast. They come to the mosque, they break their fast, and they eat to their tummy full, and then on the weekends, every Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we have community iftars, which are also sponsored by community members. 5-6 families come together, and there are around 300 to 400 people coming in the mosque, breaking the fast together. So that's a huge community aspect of Ramadan, that the whole community, like 300-400 people who have been fasting throughout the day, 13-14 hours of no food and water, and they come and sit together and they break their fast. They make prayers together, and they make prayers for each other, and they break their fast together. And the whole iftar is, as I told you, it's sponsored by community members, and then starting from the setup to the arranging for the food. Some people even cook, so cooking for 300 people is not an easy job, but they'll do it just because it's the month of Ramadan and they want to do it, they want to earn more reward. And then cleaning up as well, cleaning up after 300 people have eaten, and kids and everything. It's a big job. So, but it's all volunteer work, and it's all done, and it's amazing how you see people, volunteering, and actually, it's amazing that when our imam, the head of our mosque, posts the slots for the iftar for people, and within 10 minutes people would take up, and I want to be there. So they're so actively participating in this. So it's a huge and then when you come together as a community, then you also realize that once you leave food and water, then you also realize the pain of people who do not have, the people who are starving, that sometimes we just take food and water very for granted, that we have a right to these things, and we don't realize the pain of people who do not have these things. So even wasting food, you become conscious of wasting food, which sometimes we don't even think that okay, it's old, we just, but you become conscious that I do not have this drop of water even the whole day. So how important this even single drop of water is for an individual. So it really makes you conscious of so many other community aspects as well, and that way, so that you can become conscious, and you become more aware of your surroundings and people who are not blessed with so many things that we are blessed with.
And talk about, you talked about community during Ramadan, but talk about that sense of community and the Muslim community in Central Georgia outside of Ramadan.
Even outside of Ramadan, to be very honest, our mosque is pretty much active as a community, very connected, very united. So, even outside the month of Ramadan, we have community dinners every month. So every month the whole community comes together, and then we have so every community dinner is linked to a learning session, maybe some conferences, some, lectures and stuff like that. So the whole community comes together. And obviously we have 5 daily prayers, so people do come together for their prayers in the mosque and everything. But in Ramadan, everybody makes a special effort actually, like for the Taraweeh prayer, coming around 9 o'clock and then staying till 11:30, it's 2.5 hours. So not everybody does it outside, outside the month of Ramadan. It's hard, but once you do it in the month of Ramadan, you realize that if I can do it in the month of Ramadan, we can always do it outside the month of Ramadan too. So it really actually tells you that what your real potential is as a community as well, that how much can you work together as a community. Not just this, there's a special charity which is obligatory on people who can afford. So that charity is called Sadqatul Fitr, and that is you give it before Eid, and that is for each and every, the head of the household gives it for each and every individual of the house, and that is given to people who can't afford, and for them to help celebrate, so that they can celebrate Eid, so that they can have a better Ramadan, so that they can enjoy Ramadan in terms of meals meals, in terms of, and Eid in terms of clothing and everything, in terms of festivities as well, so that they also can be a part of this month and the events that follow as well.
Oh, that is fantastic. And talk a little bit about celebrating Ramadan, all around the world.
Yeah, about 1 billion Muslims celebrate Ramadan all around the world, and I'll call my mom. So there's obviously a time difference, but I'll call her. I'm making my suhoor. We're just about to start our fast now. We're breaking our fast. So the whole environment everywhere. When I was back home, I still remember my grandparents, everybody. So it was a different. Ramadan is a different vibe. It's a different feeling. Everybody is just working more anxiously in terms of religion and everything. You're just just devoted, and you're just into the month of Ramadan. So yeah, it's a different feeling all over the world.
Are there certain scriptures that you focus on during this month?
Yeah, so as I told you, that the most important thing about Ramadan is that our holy book, the Quran, was revealed in the month of Ramadan. So this is the most important. That is what we say, that it's the blessing of the miracle of Quran was revealed, and we fast in terms to show gratitude because this was revealed to us. And Laylatul Qadr, which is called the night of power, is the night when it was revealed. So and especially I have this verse from our holy book, that's in the chapter 1. It says about Ramadan that, O you who have believed, decreed upon you is fasting, as it was decreed upon those before you, that you may become righteous, which clearly shows as fasting was prevalent before it was made compulsory for Muslim. It was there in other religions as well, and the main purpose of fasting is to become righteous. So Quran as well, there's immense reading of Quran. People read Quran cover to cover. Some people read it more than one times, and then in the Taraweeh prayer that I told you, the night prayer, the Imam, the head of the mosque, he reads it in prayer. So the first 27 days, they finish the whole Quran reading it in prayer. So there's a huge amount of reading of Quran done because the Ramadan is because Quran was revealed in that. So there's a lot of Quran reading done in Ramadan. Reading, understanding, everything. Yeah, that's done in Ramadan.
I know prayer, fasting. Are there other ways that people really try to connect with their faith during Ramadan?
Yeah, in terms of, obviously, in terms of, that's what I'm telling you, fasting, then prayers, doing extra prayers, making extra worship, making extra du'as, praying to God for the betterment of your own household, for the community, for the world. So these are different ways, and then, coming together because we have different other activities, for instance, in our mosque going on where, they're doing the understanding of the whole Quran, and there's they do it together, and it's on a live Zoom link, and they do it and they understand Quran. So the different activities. We also have an interfaith iftar in our mosque, so where people of different faiths are invited to come and join and have iftar with us and see how it feels like and how it is like to be in the mosque and break the fast together.
Oh, that's fantastic to get other people involved.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Central Georgia Focus. Today we are talking about the observance of the holy month of Ramadan, and you've shared some very, very special things with us so far. And one thing I really loved was how you get the kids involved. Talk a little bit more about that and why that is so important to get them involved at such a young age.
Because obviously, it's not fasting itself, obviously it's a big act of worship, leaving food and water is not that easy, even if you're, and then apart from leaving food and water, everything associated with it, that you have to be careful in what you're talking, what you're saying, what you're listening, what you're watching, even, my kids, even when they're watching something, they will be careful about what they're watching, because, it's Ramadan, so we have to, so that's something that once they grow, so it's a swift, easy transition for them, that once they actually start fasting, because fasting becomes obligatory on you once you reach puberty. So it's, it's 12, 13. So you don't, if you don't want to fast, it's not obligatory on little kids. But it's just the whole month of Ramadan, getting them used to that it is special, it is something important, and it should be celebrated in a special way, observed in a special way and should be observed in a different way than other months. So once you get them trained at a young age, then it's easier for them to, obviously with with universities and schools and college, praying and everything, it becomes hard, taking time out with work and everything. So like my husband tells my kids that I'm at work and sometimes it gets hard for me with my patients, but I do take 5 minutes out and go and then make my prayer and then go back to my patients. So inculcating that thing in them, that it's something special, and just preparing them and training them for future, so that it's an easy transition for them, that once they have to start doing it in the real way, so it's easy for them and they don't have any problems. And obviously the celebration part of it is they love Eid, because they get a lot of money on Eid, because every auntie, uncle, every friends and family, they come and give them Eid. Eid is like an Eid gift, so it's most of the time it's money and gifts, so they'll be excited about opening up their books. And we have this, like you have Secret Santa, we have an Eid gift exchange, so they're excited about what gifts they're getting on Eid, and they're excited to collect them. And so it's a big celebration for them, that okay, we did so much good in the month of Ramadan, and they check their calendars. I did, I did this act of charity today. I smiled at that person today. I helped my mom in the kitchen. I tell my kids that the act of charity that you can do is that maybe declutter your toys, because giving away even in their broken toys, it's very hard for kids. So I tell them, take out one toy every day, and then we can donate it at the end of the month, so that we have 30 toys to donate at the end of the month. So that is something, just kind of preparing them for donations and charity as well. And then by the end of the month, when they get all of those gifts and everything and those celebrations, so they're very excited about it.
I'm sure. And Eid, of course, a very special celebration for all ages. Talk about what it is and what an Eid celebration is typically like.
So Eid is actually, it's a big celebration. It starts off, with obviously the Eid prayer that we have at the mosque, and then after the Eid prayer, the mosque arranges, and we loudly, the people proclaim the greatness of our Lord, and then after that, we go to our mosque arranges an Eid breakfast at Emerson Park. And I told you last year we had 600 to 700 people all together celebrating Eid. You're dressed up in your finest clothes, we all, the month of Ramadan, we're kind of ordering our clothes, and, the whole kids and everybody, and then, we're doing the special henna. I probably have I had a picture of the henna hands that I did for my friends. So, we're all, wearing nice clothes, and, that day you don't have to fast as well. So you can eat in the morning as well. So it's different, sometimes you forget, oh, why am I eating? So, and then, oh, I'm not fasting today. So, and then, we have like our mosque arranges a Muslim day at Urban Air. So the whole Urban Air is booked for Muslims, and we all go after the Eid prayer to Urban Air. The kids have a lot of fun, because they're like 400 or 500 people over there all together playing. And then we have, for the next couple of days, we have Eid parties and, things like that going on, where everybody comes together. Last year we also arranged another party for around 200 people. So, we have like big parties and food and everything. So, even if you didn't eat in the month of Ramadan, it's not that bigger. You eat a lot at Eid. And even at iftars, we have special fried foods like pakoras and biryanis and stuff like that. But, breaking the fast, we usually break our fast with date, which is a sunnah. Sunnah means that you're following what the Prophet, peace be upon him, did. He said that, it's better to break a fast with a date, and if you don't have a date, then maybe break it with water. So we prefer breaking the first thing that we eat right when we break our fast is a date or water.
Okay.
And then you can eat whatever.
After that, you're okay. Just the date or water first.
Date or water first, and then after that, you eat whatever you want to eat.
And then Eid comes, and then you really eat whatever you want to eat.
Yeah, whatever, But obviously, as intermittent fasting is becoming so popular these days that it's a means of detoxing your body. So, and I do intermittent fasting out of the month of Ramadan as well, for weight control and body detoxing. So the Ramadan is a huge opportunity for everybody to detox their body and detox their souls and detox their mind.
Well, thank you so much for coming and talking with us today. Hopefully a lot of people learned so much about Ramadan. I know I certainly did.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for joining us for Central Georgia Focus.